Hello and welcome back to the Talking Wolves podcast, another podcast. Unfortunately, it is another defeat for Wolverhampton Wanderers. However, it was a little bit, let's say, more spirited. We'll discuss that following the result of the Emirates Stadium this weekend. My name is Dave. Alongside me today, we've got Mr. Jordan Russell, and we welcome back Joe from Concept Scout. And Joe, it's good to see you, man. How you been?
Yeah, it's good to see you too, mate. Yeah, notwithstanding the football, it's been good. It's been very busy with the scouting stuff. Busy otherwise, yeah. It's all good, mate. It's all good.
You missed the big discussion last week in regards to Christmas trees. I don't know if you caught that, but our discussion was real or fake Christmas tree this year.
Fake every year. Fake it till you make it. Yeah, all day long.
Yeah, maybe I think, like I said last week, I've gone real this year, but I think the maintenance and so on may catch up on me in the next few years. So,
by maintenance, you mean hoovering, yeah?
Yeah, I suppose. The worst thing, and I think this would have probably been one of our most viewed sort of YouTube videos, was obviously I got it last Sunday and it comes on like the stump, so it stood up there. And I said to Lauren, I don't want that stood on the wooden flooring like for the next month on this thing. So I brought this like tree holder, and I thought it was just get it out the stump, slot it in place, and that'd be fine. How wrong I was. The tree had fallen over, half the balls had broken. It took me about 2 hours to try and get it straight. So yeah, I wasn't in the good books throughout the week, to be honest. But yeah, we made it nonetheless. You got your Christmas shopping done, mate, or is it a Christmas Eve jobby for you?
Pretty much, yeah. I think do you know what? This might be the earliest I've ever been done. This must be what your mid-30s looks like. This is just being organised or having nothing else exciting enough to stop you doing it. But no, mate, I am done. I'm done. I think I don't know about you. I kind of find if I finish shopping a bit earlier than I'd planned, I end up just getting more things to kind of fill the void, especially with children. Like you end up just thinking, I've not bought anything for a week. Do I need to chuck anything else in? But now I think I'm done. I assume, knowing you're not done.
No, I'm not. To be fair, I don't really. I have got Lauren a few bits, but she says like we don't really, obviously because we just moved in, no presents. I sorted out my siblings, just need parents, but again, I don't know what do you get them, So yeah, toiletries is always one, but then half the time, like I've got a box of Lynx Africa from like the last 3 years, Christmas still to unbox. You know what I mean? So I'm not far away, but I'm still not fully prepared.
I'll tell you what,
George,
that lad who comments, by the way, on the kind of early chat in the podcast, he's going to be absolutely fuming with all this Christmas chat.
Oh yeah, I know. Well, the Christmas tree chat was the best part of last week's, I think, anyway. So, George, what about you? I don't know how organised you'd be.
Yeah, because Emma's organised, to be fair, so she drags me along, to be honest. So, yeah, I'm pretty set as well. I've got to get a couple things. I've got to get something to make up Emma's present, but I'm still working out exactly what she wants. Like last year, I think it was the 23rd of December, and she's like, I'd really like Taylor, go and watch Taylor Swift. I was like, well, why didn't you mention this 6 months ago when the tickets come out? So yeah, I had that, and I think she's dropping hints at the moment to go and watch Olivia Dean.
Oh
yeah. So and she's quite good. So I'm getting those hints. I think
quite nice on the eye as well.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to go for I'm going to maybe get them. She won't listen to the pod, so it's fine. Yeah. So that's possibly the only other thing I need to do. The thing is, when you look at shopping, I always end up like just buying things for myself as well, which I don't necessarily need, which could be Christmas presents. Like last week, I was looking at some football tops for. It was a cricket top for someone I won't say who. And then I end up buying myself.
Thanks, Jordan, in advance.
Yeah. And then I ended up buying myself a new Copenhagen football shirt, just because got the affinity with working there and whatever. So I've ended up buying myself. I didn't buy the cricket top, and I ended up buying a Copenhagen shirt. So it's just it is what it is, right? But no, I'm pretty prepared, to be fair.
I've put myself on like a ban of buying any football shirts, just because when I moved out, the amount of shirts I've got, and I was there like, why have I got this shirt? Like just like anniversary shirts, or like I've got a Juventus shirt. And I thought I'm probably never going to ever wear this again. No. And they're just in this cupboard. But at the same time, they're probably too good to chuck away.
I literally had the same conversation yesterday with them. So we were cleaning out the spare bedroom, and I've got a box of just football shirts from when I moved in. We've been here now. It's like 7th year we've been here now, that I brought from my old house. And I've got like my thing is, any time I go to a new country, I buy the shirt. So like,
Yeah.
I've got like an AEK Athens shirt in there, and I've got like just random stuff. And I'm like, I'm never going to wear it. I put on a stone and a half since it, and I was like, should we just charity shop it? I was like, no. The thing is now, like, you actually sell these now and get some money off it. So I'm actually going to get them on eBay, I think, because someone will wear a row shirt. And I think you remember when we went, me, you, and Matt did the event for BetMate for the World Cup. And I had that
God,
Heskey shirt, the Heskey shirt.
Was it a Heskey shirt?
Yeah, one sec. Let me go and grab it for you. I'll quickly show you on the screen.
I thought it was. He had a Mark Lawrenson shirt.
Oh no, that's that's what we won. Remember that I won the BetMate game, but remember, there we go, the official.
Oh yeah.
What you wore that, or did you?
I wore that when
I've seen a picture of Jord wearing that.
Yeah.
Heskey 11.
So I found that was in the spare bedroom. I was like, this. I got this off Classic Football Shirts for about £100 about 6 years ago, and again now that's probably worth 200 maybe, just because of how rare it is.
With Heskey on the back.
With Heskey on the back. Well, people love Heskey, don't they? And I also brought off there a few years ago Eyes of Cocoronco Doritos one, which I still can't get my hands on. But I do want to find that, because
that'll be worth a fortune. Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
I'll come back on camera. Yeah. Well, yeah, football shirts. And yeah, I got I sold all my old sort of wall sort of training tops, Castor bits and pieces. You know, I've got a couple of bits left, but everything else I sort of got rid of just to make a bit of room and get a bit of money in. But
if anybody has got a Anderlecht Fabio Silva shirt, that Dave would gladly give hand
I remember
over
a message him. I said, Fabio, if I buy one, and would you sign it? He's dead. He left me on red. I was like, cheers, buddy. So yeah, maybe one day. Those are the days. I suppose we better actually talk about football, boys. Unfortunately, Wolves losing out 2-1 on Saturday night at the Emirates. Look, I think a lot of people went into this game expecting it was going to be a cricket score. I actually felt some of the comments I saw across social media and on certain videos and stuff over the week a little bit disrespectful. I think people, I heard not just off, 2 or 3 people, but quite a lot of people saying and suggesting Arsenal could break the Premier League record, and how wrong they were. Unfortunately, Wolves obviously came away with nothing. But Joe, in terms of overall performance, I think Wolves can take a lot out of last night.
I think there's definitely a lot of positives to take. I think if you look at just the attitude alone, if you take the football side of it out, I think the way that they kind of stuck at it. And to be honest, I never at any point thought we were definitely in the first half. Don't think we looked like conceding at all. I don't think they had a shot on target until after the hour mark, possibly even later than that. So I think there's definitely. I don't think I've been on for a lot of the negative periods. So it's probably me coming in blind a little bit, but I think with the kind of water that's under the bridge, you would obviously take any positives, and I think to be able to be 0-0 for most of the game and 1-1 with before the last kick of the game, really, with Arsenal away, is definitely a positive foundation to build from. I think the obviously it's gutting, and I think Rob Edwards' interview was kind of difficult to watch in a way. I think given that there's a lot of pressure on the players, a lot of pressure even on Rob Edwards this early, but I think for the fans generally, sitting there watching it as one, it's heartbreaking to a point because it's just death by 1,000 cuts. Any way we can find to lose a game, we seem to be doing it, whether that's high line, getting done in behind by Bruno Fernandes and the like on Monday, or whether it's trying to grind out a point and getting back into the game and then losing it. I'm sure we'll find more ways to lose games between now and the end of the season, but I think the one positive thing that they can build from now is if they do need to be compacting games, and there will be loads more games this season where we need to do that, they can build from that, which I think is definitely a positive.
Yeah, I think it's not often you put the ball in the back of the net 3 times and unfortunately come out on the losing end. It was obviously the 2 own goals, either side of Tolu's goal, Jord. But like Joe said there, I think you look at in Rob Edwards' short time at the club so far, every single game we've gone in level at half time. Obviously, the Manchester United game, unfortunately, was a heavy defeat in the second half. Performance was really disappointing. But a lot of the other games, Wolves have held their own for part of it. I think going forward still leaves, we need to add a little bit more quality going forward. And look, on the sort of record papers in years to come, everyone will look at this game and just think, oh, well, it's a 3 points for Arsenal, and Wolves continue their losing streak. But I think there's a lot more to take out of that game overall, isn't there?
Well, I think we spoke about it a little bit last week, and the question was asked about Rob Edwards and will he still be here next season, or in terms of if we keep losing, will he still be here next season? And I think to answer that question after last night, it's very much if we lose every game, we could lose every single football game from now until the end of the season. But if we put in the performances like we did yesterday, the fight, the determination, the effort, the desire, which wasn't there against Man United at all, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They jacked it and they bottled it second half. Their arses went. There has been upshoots of promising signs under Rob Edwards, like the Villa away performance. I thought on the whole was pretty good. Like last night was brilliant, and I know people might point to say that Arsenal had an off night and stuff, but for me, I think you've got to credit Wolves in terms of I think we made them have an off night, and I think yesterday it was great to see actually the distances between the defence, the midfield, and the attackers felt right as well. Like against Man United, it was happen every now and again where we'd sort of break, but there'd be Strand Larsen up there on his own, or Arias would have the ball and turn back or lose it. Whereas actually, every time we broke yesterday, there was 3 or 4 players on the break as well. So it just felt like we got a lot of the tactics right yesterday. And I thought it was a unbelievable effort, and it's just a cruel, cruel way to lose a game of football. And I just think that, we put in so much into that game, and I'm just when the winner went, I just laughed. I laughed because not because I was laughing at the situation, sorry how it went in. I was just laughing because it's just like that's just us as a football club right now. It's like you put all that effort and endeavour in, and then even the winning goal, it's come off Mosquera's shoulder and flown in the back of that. It's like you just need a bit of luck, and you're just not going to get it when you're down there at the bottom of the league, unfortunately. And I do hope that for Rob's sake, really, we do start turning it around and actually get positive results. The performances have been, on the whole, largely positive, I think, since he's been here. Other than, I think, the Forest first half and the Man United performance, the Man United second half, it's been better than what it has been. So I just hope we can get the monkey off our back. I hope we can get 3 points soon, and then just sort of start planning for next season. And again, I know there might be the ever so optimistic Wolves fans who still think we've got a chance, and Dave, you might still think we've got a chance, but
I don't think so.
No, we're not going to stay up, are we? So I hope we can sort of take these positive performances and start building for next season in the Championship, because we'll need to win a hell of a lot of games to come up next season.
Yeah, and you think, and look at the moment, our form and record over the last couple of years, Wolves and the fans in general, we've been used to losing a lot of football matches, so it will be a very strange feeling, not just for us as fans, but as players as well, to get that winning mentality back as well. Joe, it's a shame with that sort of late sucker punch, though, because I feel if you can hold Arsenal to a 1-1 draw, Wolves fans would come away very, very happy with that, and it almost could give you that little bit of momentum or platform to work off, especially when you go into the final game before Christmas at home to a team like Brentford, who haven't been awful this season, but arguably are a team that Wolves could compete with and could try and get something against.
I think there's a bit of a split on home and away performances as well, to be honest. I think there seems to be playing with a bit more freedom away from home. I think that the Villa game and yesterday, we've been strong all over the pitch, I think.
What do you think that is, though, Joe? Do you think it's like atmosphere, or do you think it's just game plan? Because the Villa game is similar to the Arsenal game, where we sort of sat deep and had obviously wanted to almost absorb the pressure and were happy to counter-attack, whereas maybe those other the games at home, he's wanted to try and play a little bit more, perhaps.
Yeah, I think the Palace game, I think we were decent at home. I think they went in. I don't think we've gone in at half time losing a game under Rob Edwards.
We level every game. Yeah.
So that's a platform to build from. I think the issue at the moment, as a fan that at the moment really only goes at home, went to the Villa game, but there's definitely a different atmosphere at home. And as soon as that first goal goes in, you can sense it. Not so much with the players, but I think you can sense it in the ground that there's a negativity building. I'm sure we'll talk about everything else that's going on, but there's definitely a negativity around it and almost an apathy towards the players, which I'm not personally a fan of, to be honest. I don't. I can only speak for myself. I don't go to football matches to start shouting at players one way or the other, whether good or bad. I don't think it's productive for anybody. I think at the Molineux at the moment, as soon as a goal goes in, you're probably going to lose the game. I think because we've got that lack of cutting edge, and we've definitely got that. There's now getting away from it. The front line is kind of blunt.
Yeah.
I think you kind of know as soon as you go a goal down, it's going to be very difficult to get back in the game. That being said, last night obviously we did. I think if we're away from home, if you can build on that pressure of the home fans, and that this was the same at Villa Park, the longer we stayed in the game at 0-0, and actually at Villa should have been 1 or 2 up, I think, at one point. You can feed off that, whereas it's kind of working in reverse, I think, at the Molineux, where if teams build up a head of steam against us, we kind of know that we're going to concede. So United was a funny one for me because I think tactically set up differently. He's allowed us to be more open, and the spaces between players, particularly at the back, was just all over the shop. I think we missed Joe Gomez as well. But I think it's definitely the atmosphere doesn't help. There's no getting away from it. I think on Monday, if you've got fans coming in at 15 minutes, and obviously everyone protesting, did this knowing this would be the case, and power to them. But players are going to sense that. So I'm not particularly looking forward to Brentford on Saturday, but I do think it's an opportunity where if we can get the first goal, I think we can win the game. I think that they're a team that can be beaten. I think they've probably overperformed this season, and they've been brilliant, but I think they've overperformed to a degree. I think Thiago scored about 35 penalties so far this season, so and no doubt he'll score some more on Saturday. But I think Rob Edwards has spoke about it. We've got to differentiate between the issues with the club and the issues with the players. You've got to get behind them, because otherwise, as soon as you do concede a corner or a goal or whatever it might be, you sense the heads drop. So I think that's more what it is. But I do think it's one of those where if we could get a result, I don't see us staying up, don't get me wrong, but I think there's definitely a possibility that there's plenty more games that can be won this season with this team. I've said this from the start of the season. We've massively underperformed. I don't think and everything else, all the stats would back this up. We're not a 2 points in December team. If you look at the performances across the board, even under Vitor Pereira, I know people don't like to refer to XG, but XG would have us, at least out the bottom 3. So I think there's definitely positives to build from. Last night was definitely one of them.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think you summed it up there, the front 3, but or the front 2 in last night's case. But even yesterday, because there was a clear game plan, we knew that Arsenal would have a high line, and all you needed to do was just be patient and almost wait for that opening. Even with our goal, there were plenty of opportunities for one of the wing backs or the centre halves just to hoof it into the area, but they were very patient and waited for that opening. And albeit you could argue Mateus Mane's assist was him having a shot, but obviously the shot and it deflects of Tolu's head and goes into the back of the net. But they were patient and they waited for that opportunity. But the best chance of the first half, George, was through Hwang, who we all know. We've given our opinions about Hwang Hee-chan on this podcast before, and it didn't surprise me as such, because I think with the form of other players and the way that he would have had to change the team, it didn't surprise me that Hwang came in. But I actually think he made an okay account of himself last night, Jordan. Like I said, he forced the best chance of the game in the first half anyway.
It was probably his best. I'd say it's his best game for us in a long time, in terms of I thought he was a threat. I thought he offered to run in behind a few times. I thought he linked up the play quite well and a lot better than his strike partner, which I'm sure we'll get onto a little bit, who's just fallen off a cliff. But it was one of those things. I think Hwang Hee-chan of the Gary O'Neill season would have buried that chance, just because he's such a confident, streaky player. And as he was running through, I never once thought, oh, this is going to hit the back of the net. No. And it's just a confidence thing. And I think again, if he was fully on form and fully confident, actually, I think he could have been a bit cuter and add another touch and put it, pushed it to the left. So actually, Timber would have probably ended up tripping him up and getting a penalty, and that would have happened. I just think he was, I just didn't have the confidence he was actually going to ever put it in the back of the net, to be honest with you. But all in all, team line comes out, team sheet comes out, and everyone's moaning that he's in the team. But actually, I think he's more than earned a start next week on what he did yesterday for me. He put himself about, linked up play quite well, and that's sort of the Hwang we want to see. And I think actually the best thing for Hwang is actually when he's running away from our goal and running towards their goal. I think if you're getting him playing in our half or asking him to do things he's not very comfortable doing, that's where you see, for me, a very mediocre footballer. But you put him in the final third, he's shown over time and over the years he's been here, when he's on form and when he's got confidence, he can put the ball in the back of net for you as well. So I just think hopefully that'll start coming back for him.
Playing centrally as well, and as mad as it seems, he has got a little bit of pace to him, and that's what we've lacked really going forward. I think on paper, John Arias has probably got the pace, but we haven't really seen that enough. Him driving forward with the ball, and maybe not really been given that opportunity to get him behind. But I think with Hwang playing central, which is arguably where he's had his best seasons for Wolves, playing as a number 9 or playing sort of off a striker. I suppose it's no surprise we saw him play a little bit better. I thought he played well in the cup against Everton as well. I thought that he had a really decent game then. But yeah, I would say he's probably worked his way into Rob Edwards' plans potentially a little bit more. Joe will stick on Hwang, shout for a red card in the second half. Do you think it was common sense there that the referee stuck with a yellow, or?
It's never a red, that. I think that, I don't know about you two, but I had my head in my hands when I saw the kind of wide view live as I saw him flying.
I thought, what is he doing? Yeah.
What is he doing there? But then I think he's quite cute in what he does when he lunges in and clocks that he's flying at some speed, and does a really good job of kind of pulling out the tackle. So I think you got to credit him for that. I did send a tweet last night about the commentary team going over the top on the tackle.
It's typical Darren Fletcher. No, that's typical Darren Fletcher, though, isn't it? That is, yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a yellow. Yeah, fair enough. But the kind of tackles you want to see people making. He's not going to break anyone's leg. He's low on the ground. He's going for the ball. Yeah, he's late. It's a striker's tackle. But and I know we'll come on to Strand Larsen. I'd much rather be centre forward, me striker, any forward, put in a tackle like that and take a card when his team are under the cosh, than just kind of like try the lightest shoulder barge possible and kind of lose the ball. So it's never a red card. I don't think there's any fan that's not an Arsenal supporter that's going to sit there and think, oh yeah, this should have got sent off for that.
Yeah, it's funny. I spotted a tweet. I think it was actually from James Wynn, who I know listens to the podcast. It was a few weeks ago, and he said something about Darren Fletcher. Whenever he gets really overexcited about something in a football match, but then when either the co-commentator or like they have the referees watch or whatever, they have their opinion, he like all of a sudden sides with what they said. And I think it was
Michael Brown.
Michael Brown. He goes, "Oh yeah, I trust his opinion a lot more." So yeah, yellow card's the right decision. So, come on, Darren. But
I think just to touch on Hwang, I know George made a really good point there, but he's got to be a starter now, because I think the pace that he offers and some really good moments, especially in the first half, not even just that breakaway, but I think if you look at his intelligence of what he does in the build up to that run, he just peels off. He can see Arsenal's defenders pushing on, and he thinks there's an opportunity for me. If we win the ball here, I'm going to be in behind it. And I think they're the kind of things that people maybe miss. And I think Hwang gets we said this a lot, it's a lot of stick from fans when it's not really due. I think he's been played out of position a lot. For me, he needs to play through the middle and drift in and out. He's not a winger. And I understand why he's played there the last 18 months, because we don't have any others. But the couple of moments in the first half where he links up with, I thought he linked up with David Moller-Wolf really well, actually, just dropping in for 1-2s and running in behind it. And to be honest, I know you say he's confident playing, he definitely is, but he looked confident yesterday. I think they're the kind. I don't know if it's because he scored there before. I know he scored there. I think it was the Nicolas Pepe last-minute winner that we got done that year. But when he was playing with Podence, I don't know if he's just confident going to the Emirates. But thought it was brilliant last night, relatively speaking.
I think considering he's a player that's been out of the limelight, he's had a lot of criticism and stick. And every time, if things went wrong with him, the camera would pan to him and he still looked up for it. His head wasn't down, he had a smile on his face. And it's like, all right, let's roll my sleeves up and try and make things work. And it was unfortunate with that chance. I think he pressed well. Positionally, he was okay as well. But yeah, a lot of the talk was about his strike partner, who yesterday was Jord Strand Larsen. Jord, just the one league goal for Strand Larsen, which was from the penalty spot against Burnley. Obviously got 2 in the cup right at the start of the season, but things just aren't going to plan and they're not falling in place for Jurgen Strand Larsen. He got sort of cheered off on Monday against Manchester United, which we discussed a little bit last week. Do you think he needs a little bit of time out of the limelight? I don't think the support around him has been particularly great, but I don't think he helps himself. There were a couple of moments yesterday where he didn't trap the ball particularly well. He didn't move the ball on quick enough at times. I'd be intrigued to know your thoughts on his overall performance and where you stand on him going from next week.
It's tough, right? Because I feel like he's been beaten with a shitty stick at times as well, where he's quite visibly frustrated in terms of the lack of quality and lack of support around him. And he's had a bit of a thankless task, which we've spoken about as well on this podcast many times. I think he's gesturing and it's sort of geeing up the crowd and all that sort of stuff. I don't think it helps him. I think he looks like quite a sulky player, which is fine when you're putting the ball in the back of the net. When you're not putting the ball in the back of the net and it looks like you're not really moving around and you're not putting the hard work in. And again, where I will stick up for Strand Larsen is, and again, we haven't got those stats in front of me, but I reckon if you look at actually kilometres tracked in a football game, although it looks like he's not moving around a lot, I reckon he'll still be covering a lot more grass than what Wolves fans think he is. Now, that being said, yesterday there was times where I thought his decision making was wrong. I felt like he went down far too easily. I feel like his first touch was horrendous at times yesterday as well, and sort of a lot of moves or a lot of counters broke down with the ball going into him and him losing it or giving it away again. So maybe for his own sake, he probably needs a bit of time out at the team. And ultimately, like, Strand Larsen came here last season with some expectation, but very little expectation because not many Wolves fans had seen him. He'd had a very good first season in the Premier League. He'd scored, got into double digits. And again, I think he's a great finisher. I'm not sure he's necessarily a great all-round footballer, which I've spoke about on here as well. But when you get 60, 65 million pound price tags being floated around your head in the summer window, and we keep hold of you, Wolves are expecting to see a 65 million pound player and the quality of that, and that is because of Cunha went for that sort of similar money. Neto went for a lot of money. Neves, Nunes, and again, he went for a lot of money. Like, these are people that when they were at Wolves made some sort of impact. Now, Strand Larsen last year did make an impact on the team. We were a better team for him, and he scored a lot of pivotal goals last season. I just think that when your team's in the mire and you've got a price tag over your head of 65 million quid, which again is not a price tag he's put on his head, that's just what the club put on his head. Yeah. Fans are expecting a lot more of him. You should be dragging this team. And I think whatever I thought of Matheus Cunha, for argument's sake, last year, Matheus Cunha would be putting this team on his back and trying to drag it forward, because that's what he did at times last season. Whereas it appears to me that Strand Larsen is two things. He either hasn't got the quality to do it, which I think it's more so that, or secondly, he ain't got the bottle or he can't be asked to do it. And that's what I think fans think. A lot of the majority of Wolves fans think, because he just doesn't seem to be busting a gut for the cause, which is a shame, really.
Do you think he needs some time out of the team then? Do you think Tolu should start?
Yeah, I do. Well, the thing is, though, I know there's certain sections of Wolves fan base who think Tolu's a cart horse, but again, who am I to say that or comment on that? The one thing I will say about Tolu is when he does get on the pitch, he seems to be in and around stuff, and his goals to minutes ratio this year, I think it's 137 minutes per goal this year, which is a lot better than Strand Larsen's, isn't it? So on that basis alone, you have to say it's probably worth chucking in and giving a go. And actually, the fact of now he's not been selected for Nigeria in the AFCON as well, he's going to be around. That's a player that we
want a point to prove as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, he took his goal well yesterday. For me, I know you can sort of say, well, Mane's had a shot and it's flying at him and he's sort of hit him, but he knows what he's doing with it. He's adjusted to it. He's got it on target, and yeah, he could be a good player for us to look at this season, because I'll be honest with you, he'd probably be here next season the way it's going for us in the Championship, and that for me well, we're planning for that season now, so I'd be blooding him in more now, to be honest.
Yeah, be a very intriguing player to see play at Championship level.
I think, Dave, I just want to touch on Strand Larsen as well, because I hear a lot of people saying he's kind of out the game, as in, Wolves are defending a lot in games. Don't just mean yesterday, but one stat that I think is interesting. I think Jurgen Strand Larsen has more touches per 90 than I'll list some players. Wilson Isidore, Callum Wilson, Victor Gyökeres, Isak, Liam Delap, and Erling Haaland. So Jurgen Strand Larsen has more touches per game than Erling Haaland does, and I appreciate the touches could be anywhere. I think largely a lot of Jurgen Strand Larsen's touches in his defence are when he's clearing balls out of the box
or kick off.
But I think your kick off, yeah. I think Joe Gomez kicks off most of the time. But I don't think he's helping himself. I really don't think he's helping himself. I know I was probably the most vocal defender of him last season when he had early on in the season when he was getting pelters, when he wasn't quite getting as many goals as he did later in the season. But he looks like a different player to me. He doesn't. Confidence is obviously massive, hugely, and I think it's something that you can tell he's carrying him. It's carrying and he's playing on his mind. You can just tell because it's not. He doesn't look happy, whether that's on the ball, off the ball, in interviews after the game. Noted it was Tolu that stood up after the game yesterday and did a pre-match interview. And I think for me, if Jurgen Strand Larsen's retaining any value in January, and it won't be to the degree that it would have been in the summer, then I think he's the first player that Wolves would ship because he's obviously not happy at the club. Just doesn't look happy to me. And I think if you can get Tolu playing regularly, you can see yesterday he's going to offer more than Strand Larsen is, even if it's just purely on physicals. Saliba and Hincapié did not look happy dealing with Tolu, and I think a lot of the time the ball bounces off him. But I think the fact that he's occupying these defenders, whereas I think defenders looking at Strand Larsen thinking, I can probably let him run, I can probably let him go because I know that I can sit in my position and he's not really going to do me much damage. But Tolu's quicker, he's stronger, he wins more in the air. He's probably not as good a finisher, I would say. I think Strand Larsen, if you got him in the box, he's the one player that Wolves went on the end of it. But you can see yesterday, and saw it in Belgium with Tolu, if he gets a chance in the box, he's more than likely going to score as well. So I think I'm with Jordan. I think if there's an option to give him regular games, and even if that's a case of just taking Strand Larsen out of the firing line a little bit, because I know, and this is awful, I know what I'm going to get from Strand Larsen every 90 minutes. I know what's going to happen. I'm going to get 10 minutes where he's chucking himself around a little bit, and then another 80 where he's kind of sulking and chucking his arms up and complaining that he's not getting the ball. But if he did this with Celta Vigo weren't, finishing top 4 in the league. They were backs against the wall. But for me, his body language is just not good. Whereas I think with Tolu, when he comes on the pitch, Tolu was even saying to Strand Larsen when he came off the pitch, and if you caught this, when Strand Larsen was being subbed off, and he was kind of like looking around thinking, what are you subbing me off for? And Tolu was like, come on, like get a move on, get yourself off. There's a point.
There's barely any interaction as well when they sort of like high-fived or shook hands afterwards as well. I just don't think his head's in it at the moment.
No, I don't think he is.
Yeah. Jord mentioned AFCON earlier as well, Joe. Obviously, Tolu's not going, but one player, I think the only player that's actually been called up other than Tawanda Traore actually is Agbadu. And typically we finally start, not quite to the levels of last year, but he looks settled now, Joe, doesn't he, in that back three?
I think he does. He does look settled. He looks good. I think he was our best defender last night. I think with Mascara, he's a bit of a bomb scare sometimes. I think
erratic in here.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I love the fact that he plays for Wolves, and I think he's the kind of player that you need, regardless of footballing ability. I think you need someone that's going to rattle people and show a bit of, I don't care what I have to do to win this game, but I'm going to do everything I can to win it. And I think he's ruthless like that. And I think he's a decent footballer. You see yesterday, he maybe gets caught when he's playing against the better players. But I think if you're playing a Brentford or a Leeds or a West Ham, teams that are kind of in the bottom 5 or 6 in the league, I know Brentford aren't, but when you're playing those kind of teams where you think you can go and win a game, I think he's fine. But I think when you see he lapses in concentration sometimes. But I thought Aguadu was brilliant. For me, you just bring Santi in and maybe drop Mosquera into the middle, possibly. But I think Santi Bueno would be my option. I think whenever we've picked up points this season, which isn't very often, Santi Bueno was in the team for both occasions. So for me, it's a straight swap. I don't think it's a massive problem.
Yeah, I think Mosquera is suspended for Saturday. So then you bring in Santi, Agbadu's gone, so you probably drop Krejci back in. So it's a shame for Rob Edwards because I think the sort of footprint of last night's team is probably something he wanted to work off, because I think we haven't really seen the 5-3-2 enough. Maybe we saw the Palace game. I think you sort of had, was it Arias behind Tolu and Strand Larsen, I think. Whereas yesterday, I did dislike that because your wing backs could arguably be a little bit more adventurous, and then you got your sort of free in midfield and one can drop in, and it works quite well. And then Jean-Marc the Bellegarde plays well the last couple of weeks, and he gets injured, so you're going to have to swap that again. And then on Saturday, coming up against Brentford, you've got suspensions, you've got international duty, he's going to have to change it up again. So we've really struggled with that sort of side of the consistency. But I would say probably your back five on Saturday is probably going to be Doc and Muller-Wolfer again as your wing backs. I think Hugo Bueno was missing yesterday due to an injury, apparently. And then you're probably going to have Totti, Krejci and Santi Bueno as your back three, which again isn't awful. I felt bad for Bueno, really, not for breaking back in, because I think our two points this season in the league were a back four of Bueno and Krejci. And then it's what he does with the rest of the team. I think obviously we mentioned Tolu. One player, Jord, that people are screaming to start again is Mane, because obviously he came on yesterday. First thing he did was run at Saliba, arguably one of the better defenders in the Premier League. You think it's the right time to bring Matheus Mane in from the start? Or do you think it's still a tad early for him?
I think it's way too early still, and I'm saying this as to protect him as a player. I think you need to be careful with when you blood these players in and how you blood them in as well, because I think it'd be very, very unfair for us to start pinning our hopes or expectations on Matheus Mane sort of saving our season or being the saviour, right? I think he's showing in his cameos that he's got something about him. He's confident. He's both-footed. He wants to attack defenders. He wants to square them up, and for me, that's everything you want to see. I just want to protect him. I don't want to overexpose him to that and almost put too much on his plate too soon. Now, whether he could handle that or not, only time will tell. In terms of, could you blood him in and could you start him now? Maybe he could. And the people at Compton and people beyond seem to know a lot more than we do. Character, personality of the kid, and I just think you've just got to be careful when you do it. It's obviously a very similar situation to what happened with Leicester last year when they started playing Jeremy Monga a lot, didn't they? And then all of a sudden, like, he's playing, and you see it with these teams that go down. Sheffield United a couple of years ago, Ollie Arblaster. That you play these kids because why wouldn't you play these kids? But I think you've got to do it. I think come sort of February, March time, you probably will see Mane starting football games in the Premier League. And again, I'm all for that if he's going to be here long term, which again, hopefully he will be. But I think right now is probably a little bit too soon, especially, when you're thinking about we've got Liverpool away and we're going to Old Trafford as well in the next couple of weeks as well. I just think if you're going to do it, I think you've got to be careful with it and in the right scenarios. But by all means, his cameos so far have been excellent. I actually thought that when he came on the pitch yesterday, he seemed to offer more than Arias, who, again, I've sort of stuck up for a lot on this podcast, but Arias got the ball yesterday and just, again, confidence is gone. He just wants to play backwards, sideways, safe. Whereas you almost got that youthfulness and inexperience and the raw talent. I just think, you know what, I don't care if he's William Saliba, fuck it, I'm going to square you up and I'm going to take you on. And you need that arrogance. You do need that arrogance to be able to perform at this level. And yeah, I think over time we definitely will be starting Premier League. I just think now is a little bit too soon. If you ask me.
Yeah. I think I agree. He's obviously got a turn of pace. You look at. Defenders won't know a lot about him yet as well. So you bringing him on for the last 15, 20 minutes, you don't really know what to expect. Is he quick? Is he skillful? This young lad who's, you don't know anything about, he's running at you. He's going to catch teams by surprise. I think even against Forest, he got him behind once or twice. And I think the once he had a pretty poor attempt at goal. And then the second attempt he put right across the face of goal, which was just begging for someone to stick a leg out. I think it would have gone into the back of the net, but he's been very positive when coming on. And Joe, do you think that is to sort of try and keep him on side if we go down, because he could be genuinely a big player for us next season if we do go down to the Championship?
Yeah, I don't think it is that. I think obviously that's a benefit of it. I think the more he's going to play, the more likely he is to be a key figure next season. But I think he started games he came into games at the back end of last season, so it's probably he's been around the first team for 12 to 18 months now, training with them. So I think he's a viable option up there. I don't think he's a starter. I think similar to Fer Lopez, probably. I think Fer Lopez, for me, will probably be the choice in that midfield three, playing more advanced than Joe Gomez and Andre, even though I think Joe Gomez looked like he was playing as a bit of an 8 yesterday. I think that looked good, solid. He was getting forward and he allowed him to press. So I think there's options there that I think early on in the season we've chronically underused. I don't think we should be in a position where Fer Lopez is a starting player for Wolves in the Premier League, but I think that's probably where we get into now, because that's what he offers. He offers something that others don't. I think he offers that, similar to what George says there. He's got that youthfulness and the almost. I think with John Arias he's kind of done his development of being overly coached to do a certain thing, and I think that you can see him yesterday. He's not confident. It's definitely easier for him just to lay the ball off. Whereas I think Mane and Fer Lopez to a degree are thinking, I've got a window of time in this game, 10 minutes, 15 minutes to do something. I'm gonna proactively do something. And I think when you see players who are starting, and I've tried to put this argument across, I think you see a different player. I think if Fer Lopez comes into the game on Saturday and starts, for argument's sake, you will see a different player than what you would see in the last 15 minutes coming on against Arsenal away, because it's a completely different environment there. I think Mane is different in both ways, in the way that that's just how he plays. I think anyone who's watched him play through the academy will see he's just a bit of a jack in the box, that he'll try 10 things and 9 of them won't come off. But he has got a bit of stardust on him. I think he's the only player to come through the academy that has that. Well, definitely since Morgan Gibbs-White, but I'd say his ceiling's higher than Morgan Gibbs-White, which I know sounds daft. But that's where we are now. We're in a position where, for me, the front two would be Tolu and Hwang, with a 3 behind, and maybe Mane could be one of them, just floating. But I don't think we're in a position where he should be starting games, personally.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Like, for argument's sake, I agree. I think it's probably still a tad too early, Jord. I think you make a good point in terms of the fixtures that are coming up as well. I think you'd be crazy to be giving him his first start either at Anfield or Old Trafford. I'm not going to say it's impossible. It may happen depending on injuries and how he performs maybe over the next week or so. But Joe, do you think there is a possibility that we sort of go with that back five that I sort of mentioned earlier? You have João Gomes and Andre Holden, and then someone like Fer Lopez going to start behind Hwang and one of the two big forwards, you reckon?
Yeah, that's probably what I see happening, but more as a shortage of options in there, especially with Bellegarde being out and Menezes being injured, because I think Menezes would have been in and around the team, to be honest, by now. But I think that back three of Krejci, Totti and Bueno, with Joe Gomez, Andre, maybe Fer Lopez just in front of them, I think he's probably the most sensible option, because I think at least you've got someone who, Fer Lopez has started games for Wolves, so he's in the conversation, and I just think you've got enough across the team there with Tolu and Hwang to maybe you've got a bit of pace. I don't think Arias is in a position there where he should be starting games. I've always been a big fan of him since he came in, but similar to Strand Larsen, you're not seeing the real player that he is. You're not seeing what he can actually do. So he shouldn't be in the team. I thought he did okay when he came on yesterday. I think he wanted the ball and he wants to recycle the ball. He's not. This is the thing with John Arias. He's not just going to lump across into the box in the same way Mane might do. He will try and find the best option, because that's what he's done. Watch him over a prolonged period of time. That's what he does. But I think people see that. Saw a couple of tweets yesterday as in it was him passing on responsibility. But if you've got a goal where 8 out of 11 players touch the ball, 7 of them have passed on the opportunity. So you've got to be willing. I don't quite. I think similar to Hwang in the past, similar to Doc in his first run at Wolves, similar to countless other players. I think David Moller-Wolf was copping at the start of the season, whereas now everyone thinks he's next coming to Roberto Carlos, because he's one of our better players on the ball. But I think the truth sometimes lies in the middle. I think he's obviously John Arias is technically a very good footballer. He's playing in a poor team that's bottom of the league with 2 points from 15, 16 games. What do you expect? So I think someone with that kind of exuberance like Fer Lopez could add something on Saturday. Personally,
do you think if somebody, there's a lot of rumours about Jord and Arias potentially going back to South America, if somebody came in Jan Joe with money to at least make your money back on Jord and Arias, do you think the club should take it?
Yeah. He's not going to stay in the Championship. We're not going to keep him in the Championship.
And you lose value on him as well if you go down.
You lose value on him. I think it's one of those where it's shaped up as a good deal, and I still think if you put someone with pace around him, I think he's quicker than people give him credit for, but he's playing in a completely dysfunctional team.
Yeah.
So for me, it's one of them where you can have a good player in a good team. We've got a good player in a crap team in the nicest possible way. So before we get relegated and players' values plummet, I'm sure we'll come on to this. That's a player that, to me, still looks. I think he'll do a job. I think for the rest of the season, he'd still probably be one of our more creative players. But from a financial perspective, it makes more sense for him to go in January, personally.
Yeah, but it was a heartbreak when Arsenal scored the late winner in the end, and a lot of Wolves fans frustrated, but did restore maybe a little bit of belief back in the team, albeit obviously still sat at the foot of the table, still winless. But it leads us on to Saturday afternoon, the final game before Christmas, the final game of the year actually at Molineux as Wolves host Brentford. A team who I think a lot tipped to go down at the start of the season. They're still not out of it, to be fair. I mean, we're recording this before they play against Leeds United on Sunday afternoon, so there is a chance that they might be 3 points better off. But currently in the league table, they're still 15th. They're not a million miles away from the drop zone, so there's probably opportunities there to be got at. And Keith Andrews, former Wolves player, as their head coach at the moment. George, I know we sort of got maybe a little bit overexcited at the prospect of playing Forest at home, and our home form all of this season, but especially under Rob Edwards as well, hasn't really got going yet. Is there any sort of belief that Wolves could maybe get something on Saturday? A Christmas miracle, perhaps?
Could be a Christmas miracle. Yeah, and I think there's a bit of belief there just because of... I don't think Brentford are very good. I think as well, like if you look at some of the performances of this season and probably look at the underlying data, they've had... I think they've had the most penalties in the Premier League this year, which is mental. And Thiago... Yeah. Who I think everyone in fantasy football has probably got him. I have certainly, just keeps scoring penalties, so it's great on that sort of sense. But as a footballing team, do I think that they're miles better than Wolves on paper? No, but football's not played on paper, and they've got a bit of confidence about them, and we haven't, right? And I think we just need to go into the game on Saturday at Molineux and just play the game and not try and play the occasional or think, we're at home, we've got to be on the front foot, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. Just, we are where we are at the moment. Let's just work our way into the game. I don't mind us playing and setting up exactly the same sort of fashion. And again, Brentford probably aren't going to want a lot of the ball either. Yeah. I don't mind if we just stink it out for 45 minutes and almost get a foothold in the game and build from there. Because the Man United game, although we went in 1-1 at half time, that Man U could have been 4 or 5 up in that first half. That they missed a lot of good chances. So I feel like we just need to sort of play ourselves into it. It is an opportunity to go and get 3 points. I think if we show what we did against Aston Villa, I think if we've shown what we did against Arsenal yesterday, we'll win the game. And again, I know that sounds very sort of big-headed or maybe even a little bit arrogant, but if we play to the level that we achieved against Arsenal, we will beat Brentford on Saturday. There's no two ways about it. Now, we've got to be able to do that, and I think there's obviously going to be mitigating factors whether we can or can't do that on Saturday. And first of all is obviously the crowd, and I think, again, even against Man United, because you're at home, there's almost this expectation you've got to play a certain way. And in yesteryear, we would play a certain way against Brentford. We'd go at them, we'd look to dominate the ball, we'd take the game to them, we'd look to try and win the game and beat it out and not just batter them. Whereas we just haven't got the level or the ability at the moment to be able to do that with games. And I think that's what happens when we're playing at Molineux at the moment. There's almost this expectation of we've got to get back to front quick. We've got to, we want to have more of the ball. We've got to play a certain way. And then you get the groans and the moans and all that sort of stuff. And it just becomes this like sort of amphitheatre of just, nervousness on the pitch and in the crowd as well.
Yeah.
So, I think there's got to be factors that are right with that. So first of all, that, and the second one as well is the protesting and what's going to go on there. And again, I know we will talk about this probably in a little bit more detail, but from sort of the letters that have gone out and from the follow up of Jeff Shee's radio interview as well, I would imagine that fans are looking to ramp up protests from what's been said on social media. Now, I think fans have got the right to do it. I think fans have definitely got the right to do that and carry on protesting against Fosen and Jeff Shee if that's what fans decide to do, but not at the impact of the players on the pitch. And I think it's already been quelled and squashed a little bit about this tennis ball idea that came out and the whistles and stuff. It's just like, come on, like that's just so counterproductive against what we're seeing on the pitch. I hope none of that happens, and I hope none of that spills into the game. But again, the ever looming sort of protests and what that might look like on Saturday. Again, we've got 6 days before we get to that game. I'd be interested to see what happens between now, this podcast, and the game itself, because things could happen, right, in terms of that game being impacted by protesting as well.
Yeah, I agree. Jord mentioned the Jeff Shee interview there. I'd given my thoughts briefly after it'd come out on YouTube. I think in hindsight, maybe I was a little bit too kind about it, but your overall thoughts on that sort of communication and obviously the overall, the content in it and the reaction to it?
I think people have used the word term car crash. I think it's probably fair. I don't think it was. I think it was ill-advised, to be honest. I think when speaking publicly, if you're going to put Matt Jackson out there, fine. That kind of makes sense to me as a football man. He knows the sentiment of fans. He knows the sentiment of the listeners. He knows the sentiment of the press. Whereas I think with Jeff, and whether this is public, private, everyone who references any kind of interaction with him, he just says exactly what he thinks, which I think is noble in a lot of ways. And you'll get his thoughts. You'll get what he thinks. Fans won't like it, but that's what he thinks. So I think there's a degree of. I want to say there's credit for him in the fact that he does that, but I think he does it because he sees it as an opportunity for himself rather than as an opportunity for the fans. And I think that's important. It shouldn't be seen as an opportunity for the ownership. Needs to differentiate between the ownership and the kind of management and the club.
Yeah.
I think he sees it as an opportunity to tell everybody about all the great stuff that they're doing. They're not doing a lot of great stuff. I think the league position alone would tell you that. I think you're going to be hard pressed to find any chairman who can come out and present themselves well in that situation. But at the same time, when I think there's a lot of things are lost in translation. I think if we're being fair, this is a guy that doesn't know English isn't his first language for a start. I think he finds it difficult to communicate well in those kind of scenarios. But I don't think Matt Jackson spoke particularly well either. I don't think there seems to be a bit of a breakdown in. I don't think the fans necessarily, or I don't think the club understands what the fans want and what it is. I think for me, the issue obviously lies with Fosen. The issue lies in lack of investment. I think it's great that the protests have driven this communication now across the board, where even on comms and in the studio on various games like Match of the Day and the like, they're referring to lack of investment from the owners, which I think is really important, and that should have been the main aim of these protests, to get it out there. So I think it's served that purpose. But I then think Jeff Shee shouldn't be being advised to speak in public. And I don't know if he's going to do it anyway, regardless of what the advice is. But I think when you're a man in that position where you've probably got little say what goes on, let's be fair, in terms of the grand scheme of things, if Chairman Guo decides that he doesn't want to spend the money, then he ain't going to spend the money. The Jeff Shee's got very little impact on that. Jeff Shee can impact things on a day-to-day basis in the club, which again, even those individual instances where he can impact things that can happen, we've given a manager a new contract in September and sacked him in October, and I understand the reasons for that. I know why that was done, but there's no, that doesn't make it right from a club management perspective. There's players. I know he speaks publicly about not being an expert. People don't need to hear that. That's not something you should be coming out and saying. I think anybody who's done a job for 10 years, whether that's me, whether it's Jord, whether it's you, Dave, if you've done a job for 10 years, you've got every right to be an expert in it if you're doing it properly.
You probably should be, yeah.
When you can be sat talking to Mike Taylor, who's a journalist and a very good one, who's an expert in asking people the right questions, I thought he did a great job of that as well. Then if you've been a chairman of a football club for 10 years and you actually have very little to do up the chain, and we were all in different roles where you'll have involvement with people above you and people equivalent to you and people all over the company. If you're not doing anything up the chain, everything comes from Fosen. Your only responsibility is people around you and people below you. So there's no excuse for him not being an expert in that. He's done it for 10 years. And the fact that he's willing to publicly come and say that he's not an expert in it just makes him look like a tit, to be honest with you. Yeah. So I think I don't think it was. I haven't listened to all of it. I don't intend to, because it's a waste. It's a waste of people's time, largely. I would say, in the nicest possible way. I just think it could have been done a little bit differently. But that being said, he did the interview with the club in the summer. I don't think that was anywhere near a car crash. I think that was fairly reasonable. Largely, I know people didn't like it. And I think at the time we kind of said, kind of credit him a little bit for doing it, and the club for putting it out. I don't think he said anything massively controversial in that interview, whereas some of the stuff he was coming out with last week, this theme park in the Steve Bull stand, this if we go down, it's terminology. It's not. I don't believe that if we go down, everyone's going to lose their job. I don't believe that for a second, to be honest with you. But I think if all of your staff work for a Premier League club at the moment, if on whatever day in January, February, when we get mathematically relegated, when it probably will be, then February, I would say, March, then they suddenly go from being employed by a Premier League club to being employed by a Championship club. And every single one of those players with any ambition about them will want to move for the right reason, because they want to play at the top level. So it's not terminology at all. For the most important people in the club, which is the players that go out and get the results, they'll care. So I'd be interested to see what the likes of Rob Edwards and the players think on that statement. But yeah, it was a car crash. There's no getting away from it.
Yeah, Jord, I suppose we've been crying out for communication, but when there is communication, it's not really what fans want to be hearing.
No, and I think to be honest with you, I thought leading up to the interview, when it got announced around about 3:00, I think it was, that it was going to get dropped at 6. I sort of looked at the fan reaction, and everyone was like, Jeff's a crook, he's a liar, he's going to be talking out his arse, it's all going to be bullshit. Basically, everyone had made their mind up straight away on whatever he said, right, it was all going to be a load of bollocks. And for me, that is completely the wrong way, looking at it, completely the wrong way of going about it. People within these protests, and again, at least what I thought the protests were about, were getting Fosen and or Jeff Shee to talk. He then comes on to talk on a very reputable station with Mike Taylor, and fans are already going, well, it's just going to be full of smoke screens and mirrors and lies and bullshit anyway, so what's the point? So it's like, well, again, coming back to the protest thing, well, what's the point in protesting then? You've sort of got, it's not exactly what fans completely want, and again, I still would love to know sort of what the end goal of the protest is in terms of what fans are trying to get to. I think it is to get Fosen and Jeff out, but from that interview, Fosen aren't going anywhere, and it doesn't seem like Jeff will be going anywhere anytime soon either. So it'll be interesting, like I say, to see what happens from that perspective with the protesting. But yeah, I thought people would like basically killing him before he's even spoke, and for me, rationally thinking about it, I thought that's not fair, that's not right. I'm going to listen to it. And again, I think last week I mentioned on the podcast that the Business of Sport podcast from the summer, I actually thought was a good listen, but people took out we got lucky and ran with that and said, oh, it's a load of shit and whatever. Now, listening to it, there was a few things said at the start, and then I thought, right, that didn't sound great, but I'm not even going to comment or anything right now. I'm just going to sort of just carry on listening, because again, it could just be communication, it could be a language, but whatever it could be. And then as it went on further and further and further, I just got more and more angry. I got more and more irate with what was being said. And there's a lot of things within there that again, you shouldn't be saying those things if you can't actually back it up. Like stuff like, we're not every member of staff. No, we're not going to lose any members of staff. So, well, you're dropping from the Premier League to Championship. The revenues are going to decrease quite dramatically as well, and quite drastically, as we all know. We're not even football financial experts. It just is what happens, right? So if there's as much as a cleaner or a member in the kitchen staff at Compton lose their job and that comes out, fans are going to pick up on that and kill him for it.
Yeah.
Just one person loses a job, a steward, like a security officer, like anyone. As soon as that comes out, fans will be on him saying, "Well, you said this and you've done something different. So again, you've let down and gone back on your word there." The one thing that sort of got me was the sustainability piece and saying, "Oh, that's like a figment, almost like a figment of the fans' imagination." And that's when, for me, I just sort of thought, well, no, like this self-sustainability thing's been stuff that's been coming out of your mouth for years and years and years. And like the quote I actually picked up, which in an article he wrote in the Express and Star in 2024, May of 2024, it's not even that long ago. If a club can't find a way to be self-sufficient sooner or later, then the day its owner stops funding is literally the day it starts to prepare for administration or to be sold. And that's written by Jeff Shee himself. So that's not a fan. This isn't fans saying it's self-sustainable. You're openly coming out and saying the club's got to be self-sustainable. I think Matt Hobbs did something in this summer as well, talking about self-sustainability and the path and the way that Wolves are going. And the club's made a profit now for the last 2 seasons and probably on to make a profit again this year as well. So when you're coming out saying finances are tough or finances are tight, I don't believe you. And I'm saying this as someone that sort of, I think I'm quite rational as a fan, and I'll listen, I'll observe, I'll do my research. But like last year, as a group, Fosun Group turned over $26.5 billion US. And you're basically coming on the BBC radio, BBC West Midlands radio, pleading fucking Oliver Twist to all the fans saying we've got no money. Oh, we're doing it on the cheap, we're scrapping by. Go and talk to the fuck above you. Go and get some investment in this football club, and basically get it invested to a level that we can be competitive. It's what we said about last week. About you're hamstringing yourselves. It's not the fact that the group haven't got money. You're hamstringing yourselves within the resources that you're saying is coming into the football club. Now, there's no reason why Fosun couldn't or can't put money into this football club if you ask for it and it's the right investment. Like I looked at their annual report as well, so it's open to anyone to have a look at. Any company with shareholdings will release an annual report for all the shareholders. So just to really sort of like scrutinise it and put it down and to paraphrase it, the biggest thing for Fosun next year is around growth and the expectations around growth. So they're going to focus on global revenue expansion, the profitability and innovation as a group. So that, to me, that isn't a group or investment company that's looking at shrinking and got no cash to spend or push around their investment portfolio. So why isn't that money coming into the football club? Or why aren't we getting any access to that? And again, I think when we talk about sort of sponsorship opportunities and stuff, look at Fosun's portfolio. And again, I know the rules are changing around having like your own companies being able to sell the stadium or whatever to sister companies within the thing. But they could have done this years and years ago, where they could have renamed Molineux. They could have basically got the front shirt sponsor being someone within the group, Thomas Cook, and just doing it at an overinflated price. It's what Man City did. It's what Chelsea's done over the years. It's what all these clubs have done and got away with it. And we've never once had the ambition or sort of the intelligence to try and do that. So coming out again on radio and saying we've got no money, when you turn over $26.5 billion a year as a group, you have got money within the group. You have got money there.
Yeah.
And so it's just, and then asking the council to get involved in the stadium. Like, again, I do think the council do have some sort of jurisdiction and right to do it. But then I wanted to have a look at, because I think the example was around like Birmingham City, and that the Birmingham Council are going to help them with the stadium and all the infrastructure and the building of it all. Now, actually reading into it, and again, I had to do my research before I come on and talk about it. The only thing that Tom Wagner, who's the Birmingham chairman, has asked Birmingham City Council to do as part of the stadium rebuild and all the jobs and everything else that's going to come with it. The only thing he's asked the council to invest in is basically extending the metro from New Street to the ground. He said, you build the metro from there to there, I will pay for everything else. So the Birmingham Council aren't funding the stadium. He's basically saying, make it accessible for our fans to get there, I will build it. And so I think actually putting it back on the council is a little bit, not unfair, but you're almost throwing the council under the bus because Fosen have decided they don't want to build the new stadium or a new stand.
It's to pass the blame, isn't it, a little bit as well? And
then, yeah, it absolutely is. And then, again, Joe's already mentioned it. And again, I'm hoping this is lost in translation a little bit, but he said about the amusement park when we looked to build the Steve Ball, rebuild it and put an amusement park in it. What? What? You're going to put Oblivion?
Like a bowling alley or something. It's surely something like that.
I'm guessing, and I'm hoping he means like there might be a hotel, a casino, and almost like that. That's what I'm thinking. But in my head, I'm thinking fucking putting Oblivion on the top of the fucking roof. And then you're coming out on the Asda car park. You know what I mean?
It's just like the roller coaster comes down the stadium.
It's mental. Honestly, I wanted this communication, and again, I feel like at times, again, I said it last week, he's definitely not got everything right since he's been here. He's definitely done things wrong, but I actually want him to come out. I actually want to hear from him. I actually want to know what's going on. And then I listened to it, and after it stopped, I thought, there's a reason probably why the club aren't advising to do these things, because you're saying things you can't keep to, and then some of the things you're saying on the back of it's just ludicrous. And again, me pulling apart some of the things he said is me, one person, one fan, doing a little bit of research, and basically disproving some of the things you're talking about. So that's what, in my opinion, if we'd have got hammered against Arsenal last night, because we recorded on Sunday, if we'd have got hammered last night against Arsenal, there'd have been pitchforks and all sorts got at Molyneux for Brentford. Yeah. I actually think the performance on the pitch might actually save and tamper sort of what the protests might be like on Saturday. But honestly, after that interview, I thought, oh God, you've literally just poured petrol on a fucking big fire as it is now, and it's just going to get worse.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the performance will help long term. I sent you guys a picture yesterday of a fan who said after Nottingham Forest game, this club is dead to me. And then after the Arsenal game, I am proud to be a Wolves fan. So that's how quick things can change with what's going on the pitch. But no, appreciate your thoughts on that, lads. We'll very, very quickly finish off with some quick fire questions, because I know we've run over a little bit. And Joe, I know you've had some recruitment questions as well. James Christie, do you think Wolves players are scared of playing at home? Our last two away performances, Villa and Arsenal, have been full of fight. Home games have been awful. The fans need to back the players. Joe, we touched on that very quickly earlier on. Could be a lot of things. Could be atmosphere is one. Could be game plan, I suppose.
Yeah, I think the answer to that question is a resounding yes. I don't know whether it's scared, but there's definitely a kind of thought in the players' minds. If I play a bad pass here, I'm gonna get I'm gonna get a lot of shouty bald men behind me, getting angry. So
yeah. Richard Beacon, big up Sam Beacon's dad. Jord, in light of attacking prowess shown in the second half last night, should we say sod it and go forward at the back with a proper 10, maybe Fair Lopez and Tolu as a number 9? What do we have to lose?
Man United scared me enough to know that we can't play with any sort of space to attack us. So I think, unfortunately, as boring and as turgid as it's going to be, we need to set up and play exactly like we did last night against every team in this league, unfortunately. So, no, I think we have to play this way to be competitive in football games, unfortunately. So, for me, no.
Yeah, we've had a few questions that we've sort of we've answered as well. Amar's Music Show spoke about the redundancies, which we've touched on as well. Jamie Britton, Joe, are we up for selling Jorgen Strand Larsen in Jan? How much could you realistically get for him now? Seeing Yerson outrun him into the box and Hwang went for on goal in the first half was painful.
Yeah, agreed. It was. I think in terms of numbers, I'd imagine it starts with the 2 at best. I think you're going to be looking at 30 million plus for Strand Larsen. I don't think he was worth anywhere near the numbers that were being mooted at the time anyway, to be honest. I think the club will sell if it gets anywhere near 30 million in January, it would be, again, it's going to be
The backlash though as well is going to be a little bit frustrating in regards.
Do you
to
think it will though?
I
Do you think
think with our fan base it will, and other fans actually. To be fair,
it depends on reinvestment, doesn't it? It's the same as anything. If they'd have sold Cunha for 40 million and they go and buy another 40 million pound player, then everyone's happy. The player that no one likes is out the door, and you've got a new face to start getting excited about. I genuinely think that's how fans work. I don't think it's about even quality sometimes, or the financial side. It's like now Joe Gomez is probably going to be 20s, I would say 30s.
I think Jay could possibly push a bit more for you.
Yeah, I just you don't see many players go for big money once clubs have been relegated to the Championship. Do you see? It does happen, but I don't. It's usually a centre forward that's quick, or a fullback that's creative, or that kind of player. I don't think it's a 6 or an 8 in midfield. So I think with Andre and Joe Gomez, I don't see big money coming in for them now, unfortunately. But I think with Strand Larsen, yeah, for me, I'd move him on, on the basis that we've got Tolu now. If we hadn't have had Tolu, then maybe it would have been a different answer. But I think we've got Tolu, who for me is a more exciting player to watch, and a player that'll bust a gut to do what he needs to do for you. And if we go then and sign a player that is experienced in the Championship, is a exciting prospect for another country, that's got something that I know when we're talking about Mathis Ablin from France in the summer, a player that has been playing in the second tier, I think, in France this year. So there are players that will be around there that we can go and get still. I still believe it's an interesting prospect. And I think with a clearing of the decks in the summer, largely, I still think will be an interesting prospect. I think if you look at some of the players Ipswich have signed, Southampton have signed, there's still, the Championship's still a good league to be playing in. I know we're probably kind of preparing ourselves for the worst, but I still think there's good opportunities from a recruitment perspective. If Strand Larsen does go, I think he can be easily replaced, would be my view.
It'll be interesting because I think not necessarily in January, but in the summer as well. I mean, we had a very brief conversation before we started about the quality of certain players that may or may not join us. And I think with Wolves having that sort of 8 or 9 years of experience or whatever in the top flight, going down to the Championship, you would hope that we've got a good chance of coming back up, and clubs. It's not really a market Wolves have gone with in terms of loan deals, but you take a couple of good young players on loan from some of the top 14s. Manchester United got some great sort of fringe players at the moment. You look at City's, Liverpool's. There's players that could come to Wolves and give you a great shout. Someone mentioned, I think it was Steve Lees. Joe replied to one of your tweets. Top 3 positions to address in January. He mentioned Ross Barkley, who I would have had money on him potentially being an option this January, but I think you noted that he's out for a short while. But quickly off the pair of you, George, we'll start with you. Position-wise, I think the attacking... we may have been asked this question last week.
We asked it last week, yeah.
I think the attacking players are an obvious one, aren't they?
Yeah, it's definitely like, those 2 sort of number 10s. I think we need a lot more quality in those sort of areas, and probably support now for Fer Lopez and Mateus Mane. I would argue that those are the ones, because like I say, I know we spoke about, I think Harris will go in January. I think he'll be back. I think he'll be gone. And, there's going to be opportunities there. I think, like you say, Dave, it's sort of a market when you talk about those big clubs and the fringe players and whatever, that there's a lot of quality in some of those teams where you could actually, when we go down as well, you give them a platform to go and play next season in the Championship and play most weeks. I think we'll be very attractive for players, and ultimately, again, maybe I'm putting my foil hat on. Fosun will have to invest big in the Championship next season, because the longer we're out of the league, the longer they've got to hold on for the club, and the longer it is for them to look to basically sell it for the money they want to get for it, right? So they need to get back up at the first time of asking. So, yeah, I think the 2 wide areas are a must, and I think we need a right wing back as well.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Obviously, it'll depend on players going out as well, I suppose, Joe. There was one, probably finish on this, in terms of experience, and I suppose I'm looking back sort of 20 plus years when Dave Jones was bringing in the likes of Paul Ince, and we've got Dennis Irwin and so on. And maybe not to that extreme, but you know, you look now. Do you think there's a window of opportunity for potential players? And look, I'm not going to sit here and say I've watched loads of them over the last couple of years because I haven't. But players like Jesse Lingard or Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, who aren't exactly the most attractive of options right now, but have got that experience and could potentially be options that would stay at the club if we went down as well.
I think it's less about positionally, isn't it? It's more about the attitude that they bring to the club. And if you've got players that have been there, seen it, done it, like both of those players have that you've mentioned there, I think it was the same. Cody did this when he was at Wolves, and he kind of developed that as he left Wolves. And then when he did leave Wolves, we missed him. We might not have missed him on the pitch, but we definitely missed him off the pitch. So I think he's never really been replaced in that respect. Not talking positionally, but I'm talking about a player who's willing to go and pull Jord Strand Larsen or go and pull Yerson Mosquera and say, what are you doing? Yeah. Stand here, do this. And I think we've grown up watching players like that for Wolves. Ince was a good example. Dennis Irwin. I think we saw Connor Cody. We saw players when we went down to League One with Sam Ricketts. All those sort of players who just bring a professionalism to the club that I think at the top level of the club, off the pitch, we're missing. But you can fill the gap. And I think, obviously, Rob Edwards has done that by strengthening his coaching team. He's got people around him that he know the club.
Yeah.
And I think if players can come in, you can see it with Southampton and Adam Armstrong as an example. Player who's playing the Championship, he'll score 25 goals every single season he plays the Championship. You know what you're going to get. He's not a particularly great footballer. He missed a penalty yesterday, good example. But he will bring a certain professionalism and level of experience to the club. And I think someone mentioned Imran Lauzes to me. So Imran Lauzes is a good example of a player that he's played in the Championship. He's played at a decent level, but by all accounts, attitude-wise, probably not a great shout. Do you want to chuck him into the club? Because he's already itching to leave Watford. If we don't get promoted the first time of asking, do you want a player who's going to be gagging to leave? Probably not. You want a player who knows what he's signing up for, knows what he's coming into, knows he's probably going to have a younger team to deal with. I still think the team, Johnston will probably hang around, I would imagine, hopefully, and could be a good keeper in the Championship. I think Chachua will be our right back next season. I think I don't see him getting...
Maybe Pedro Lima in there as well, possibly?
Yeah, possibly. I think that the centre-backs largely would hang around. I don't think the team's far away. I've said this all season. I don't think the team's far away from being a decent Premier League team with 2 or 3 players away. And those 2 positions that Jord mentions, if we've got 2 decent wingers or 2 decent 10s who can create and can kind of link the rest of the pitch, then I do think everything kind of gets a little bit better. But notwithstanding that, you're going to lose Joe Gomez and Andre. You've got to completely reinvent your midfield. Hopefully that involves Tommy Doyle. I'd imagine it will. I don't see Blues going up this season off the back of recent results. So, I'd like to think he's going to be involved. I think you can still got Marshall Venezzi in the team who could be big player for Wolves in the Championship. I think his playing style suits the Championship. I think for me, it's more about bringing in the right characters and someone who's going to almost steady the ship in the dressing room and restricts the amount of work that Rob Edwards has got to do by just managing the players on a day-to-day basis. I think that's moving out of football a little bit now. I think it's less of a thing, but the teams that come up out of the Championship this season will be teams that have got solid heads. If you look through that Coventry team, they've got a lot of experienced pros in that team. They've got a lot of players who've done a lot relative to the level. Middlesbrough have got players like Hayden Hackney who have just a level above, but they've got a lot of players. If you look through that squad, George Edmondson, Championship players who've played, who know the league, who are good professionals, who've probably played at a level above their skill level.
Yeah.
But they've got through the career by being good pros, and I think that's probably what we need.
Can I add to that as well before you go in there, Dave? Sorry, I think what you said there, Joe's like bang on, and I think that's sort of again what could have really put us in good stead for this season, and a lot of it's sort of been negated and been ignored. Is that sort of proven quality within the league? So, for example, like going back to the summer where we've turned down Harry Wilson, David Brooks, Kyle Walker-Peters. Those would have come in, and they're not needle movers by any stretch of the imagination, but they give you that sort of nous to the league. And I think it's a conversation we've had before where actually we just haven't got leaders from a playing perspective in the squad or natural leaders. And I said, if you look at people's windows in the summer, you look Sunderland, they went out and got Granit Xhaka. Burnley went out and got Kyle Walker. Brentford went out and got Jordan Henderson. And again, I'm not saying needle movers, they're like sort of in their mid to late 30s, but all three of them that I mentioned there, if they were at Wolves now, they would all be in the 11, and they would all be holding everyone accountable on the pitch, off the pitch, to say, nah, I've been involved in title-winning teams in different leagues. This is what we expect. This is the standard. This is the expectation, and they'll be dragging people around the club. And I don't think that's happened for a while either.
Yeah.
And I think if you're looking back at, again, Joe's made some good points there about sort of Coventry and some of the level heads they've got there, and things like Coventry. Jake Bidwell, for example, he's been in and around the squad, but he's been around the Championship for like 10, 12 years, right? And he'll be there and bringing on the better, younger players than him, but they've all been there, seen it, done it, playoffs, all that sort of stuff. When Villa came down, and I know it's sort of comparing, it's probably not a direct comparison, but when they come down to the Championship, they went and got John Terry, they brought Neil Taylor in, they brought Mila Jedinak in, they brought experienced footballers in England to come down to almost be that sort of foundation and be that solid base to then actually go and sprinkle stardust around it. And I think that's when we go down, which we are going to go down. There will be outgoings, but I hope that, and I think Rob Edwards is acute enough to it, and I think he'll know it, that actually we need to start building a different foundation, and to get out of that league, you need know-how and nous of how to play in England, because we can't afford to carry players for 6 months, because in the Championship, when you're playing Saturday, Tuesday, all of a sudden you're 17th and you haven't won a game in a month. So, I hope that, when it comes to that, addressing that in the summer as well, or even in January if they want to start planning for that, we need to be acute and smart. And there will be players, I know we said at the top there, loaning young players, there'll also be players that are on the decline from the Premier League who are leaving football clubs, which might be attainable for us, that will be very, very good at the level in terms of for that Championship level that we need to be looking at as well.
Yeah, I mean, you look at...
Announce Tommy Spur.
Yeah, you know Rob Edwards, who's played at that level, Matt Jackson, who's been in and around that level. That it's Matt Jackson's first sort of, people have been giving him a stick and so on, but these are big opportunities to him, whether it's in January, whether it's in the summer, to show, can you help construct a football team that either can give a good fight to stay in the Premier League, or next year make sure you get out back into the Premier League at the first time of asking as well. So it'll be very interesting to see how it goes. And Joe, going back to what you said in terms of players who quality-wise maybe aren't quite there, but always played a level above. Cody was one. Ryan Bennett was another one. We signed Ryan Bennett, and at the time, I remember in the Championship, I think everyone was like, yeah, solid Championship signing. Didn't really think much else of it. So I started right centre-back for the majority of the Europa League season, and he played fantastically well. So, lads, thanks for sticking around. It's a really good podcast. A little bit over what we usually do, but it's all good nonetheless. And fingers crossed it is one that we can maybe celebrate. The final podcast before Christmas obviously will be next week after the Brentford game, all being well. I really, 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 really hope there's a Christmas miracle and Wolves get something, but we'll wait and see. Jord, where can people find you if they wish?
At JordRuss7 on X.
Yeah, Joe, thanks for jumping back on as well. It's great to have you here. Where can people find you if they wish?
At Concept Scouting, mate.
Yeah, brilliant. I'm at Dave as a Party everywhere, and we're at Talking Wolves everywhere as well if you want to keep up to date with the latest Wolves news. As always, if you're watching or listening on YouTube, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel and leave us a 5-star rating if you're listening on Spotify or Apple. But enjoy the rest of your week, guys. We'll be back after the Brentford game. Fingers crossed it is a little bit more positive, but we'll see you all very, very soon.